Good afternoon. I now call back to order the Pasco County Board of County Commission meeting of August 10th, 2021. I'd like to remind everyone present to please silence all their electronic devices and mute your microphones. The private attorney-client meeting to discuss the status of litigation strategy, and recent developments relating to settlement options in the case of Pasco County, Florida versus AmerisourceBergen Drug Corporation et al., case number 8-CV-155-8-T33-AEP, U.S. District Court, Middle District, Florida, has concluded. Okay.
Mr. Chairman, we may want to take 107 up after you get through your land use matters. At this point, we've adjourned the private attorney-client meeting, and then if the board wants to discuss the resolution, we can do that after you do your public hearing agenda.
Can we, Mr. Chairman, or
Yes, sir.
Mr. Stein, sorry, can we, if we have consensus, can we just go ahead and vote on it? And
It has the opioid task force resolution built into it. And
well, I thought we said we were going to talk about that one later.
Based on the comments, I think that I've got a solution for it, but it's
Okay,
going to be longer than just.
All right.
Yeah, we're going to do it after, so it'll be
thanks.
fine. Okay. So now we will proceed with public hearings agenda, starting with ordinances P110.
Item P110 was published in the Tampa Bay Times on June 16th, 2021.
Mr. Chair, Commissioners, Denise Hernandez, Planning and Development. P110 is PDD 210431. This item is actually being withdrawn from further consideration, so no action is required at this time.
Okay. P111.
Item P111 was published in the Tampa Bay Times on April 28th, 2021.
Item P111 is PDD 210328. This item is a request for continuance to the September 28th, 2021 Board of County Commissioners meeting at 1:30 in Newport Richey.
Move to continue.
Second.
I got a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye.
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 Motion passed 4-0. P12.
Item P112 was published in the Tampa Bay Times on April 21st, 2021.
Item P112 is PDD 210371. Today is the adoption on this item, so we ask that you adopt the item by roll call vote. I will read the title. An ordinance amending the Pasco County Comprehensive Plan, providing for a comprehensive plan text amendment to sub-area policy FLU 7.1.34 for King Ranch, and renaming the sub-area to Palmetto Ridge, updating the future land use map 2-9 and sub-area map 2-9, parens 34, Fort King Ranch, to depict name change. And again, this is the adoption hearing on this item.
This is a public hearing. Is there anyone here to speak?
So this is an applicant-driven one, correct?
It is.
So does the applicant have a presentation, or you? Okay.
Okay. Seeing that, then pleasure of the
Is there
board.
any? I'm sorry, I interrupted you. Is there any? Is there
Does
anybody?
anybody here wish to speak to this item?
So I move for approval.
Second.
Got a motion and a second.
Madam Clerk, was there anybody on WebEx for this?
There is no one on WebEx for this item.
Okay, thank you.
No one on WebEx. All right, I have a motion and a second by roll call vote.
District 2, Commissioner Moore.
Aye.
District 3, Commissioner Starkey. District 4, Commissioner Fitzpatrick. Aye. District 5, Commissioner Mariano.
Aye.
District 1, Chairman Opie.
Aye. Motion passed 4-0. P113.
Item P113 was published in the Tampa Bay Times on July 18th, 2021.
On P113, this item, should I read it by title? This is the first reading on the item, and Mr. Bill Oliver will have a presentation on the item. Okay. PDD 210499, an ordinance by the Pasco County Board of County Commissioners amending the Pasco County Land Development Code, Section 1302.2, mobility fees, to increase the mobility fees for various uses, to decrease the mobility fees for certain locally owned small businesses to amend the mobility fee regulations to be consistent with Chapter 2021-63 laws of Florida, and other amendments as necessary to ensure internal consistency, providing for applicability, repeal, or severability, inclusion into the Pasco County Land Development Code, and an effective date. And again, Mr. Bill Oliver will have a presentation on this item.
Okay.
Good afternoon. We're here to present to you recommendations of staff for the adoption of or update of your mobility fee program. I participated in this study since 2011, original adoption, 2014 update, 2018 update, and now the 2021 update. So somebody's advanced a slide extra here. Back up one, please. There we go. So typically what I like to do in these presentations is summarize what has changed since the last study was up and fee schedules were updated. And then I'll present to you what the staff's recommended action is for you as it is in the ordinance. Next slide, please. And a brief history. The most significant point on this particular slide is item number C, which is underlined. You have held your mobility fees constant, essentially, with few adjustments here and there, but mostly unchanged since the year 2011 fee was adopted. And you've been able to do this because you adopted a second local option gas tax, you've implemented a tax increment financing district countywide to help fund transportation needs, and somewhere in the record of adopting this fee, updating this fee in 2018, I made the comment that we can't keep holding these fees constant forever. And so this year is the year in which we do need to make some adjustments in order to fund your transportation plan at your goal levels. So your fees
Mr. Chairman?
Yes, sir.
Can I stop for just 1 second? So didn't we just cut our mobility fees back because we had enough collected?
No, sir. You added flexibility into your TIF funding program. You haven't touched your mobility fees.
Okay. Okay.
Mr. Chairman, didn't we provide additional incentives or adjust the incentives on the mobility fees?
You did, and that's coming up, I think.
That's what we asked.
So in 2020, you did add additional incentives for the West Market area and for affordable housing, at the same time that you increased the fees for apartments. That occurred in 2020. Does that answer your question?
Yes.
And that was item D on this slide. So, minor adjustments in 2020. Next slide, please. So one of the things that changed during the course of this study was the Florida legislature adopted what's called House Bill 337. The House bill basically limited the ways in which mobility fees and impact fees across the board could be increased over time. There were two general categories of how this could happen. If your fee increases were proposed at less than 50%, they had to be in certain prescribed steps. It was possible to increase your fees by more than 50% if you had a totally fresh study and the Board of County Commissioners found extraordinary circumstances and had a 2/3 majority vote. Pasco County felt it was in the first position where basically over the next 4 years, your mobility fees will be stepwise increased, 1/4 step each of the 4 years between now and 2025.
Mr. Chairman, I'm going to stop
Yes,
real
sir,
quick.
Mr. Moore.
Sorry, apologize. I'm going to make a motion to continue this. Nobody met with me on this item. I was going to let it go for a while. I see faces, I watch faces. I think we should all be briefed on this.
So Commissioner, can I?
Yeah, go ahead.
There actually was a meeting, it was a while ago.
It's been a while.
probably
Yeah.
6 months ago, and there is a slide that talks about the results of those one-on-one
Yeah.
meetings with the commission.
I understand. I don't know everybody else. I'm just a little concerned that it's been so, it's like I remember discussions in the past. It was, we didn't have a meeting, 6 months ago, so we haven't had one recently. I don't, that's my
That-
opinion.
That's up to the board. I'm
Yeah,
just saying,
I think we should meet, if the rest of the, I don't know if anybody met with the rest of the commissioners over the last, 2 or 3 weeks, but if not, I think you should have one-on-one meetings with all of us and then bring this back. That's my opinion.
Mr. Mariano?
I'd agree 100%, because I tell you, I hate to ask that question, I asked right off the bat, because literally, we just looked at our transportation, we just looked at our tax increment part, and we cut it back to give us flexibility. That tells me that our impact fees are okay. My first gut reaction. When I look at it, when you talk to other people around Pasco, we've got the highest impact fees around. I don't think I need to be any higher based upon having done a cut over there. So maybe a one-on-one might change my mind. I'll listen to it.
We can meet one-on-one.
Yeah.
They're not as significant of an increase as you
I know.
think. They're like 3% increases per year, so.
Yeah.
And I thought the county administrator had discussed some of these with you in his one-on-one meetings as well, but we'll meet with you again, so that's
Yeah.
fine.
No, Mr. Chairman, and David, I appreciate, I remember the meetings we did have
Okay, Mr. Moore?
6 months ago or so. It's been so long. We've been through a lot in 6 months. I really prefer that if we have that meeting again, we may all be in agreement when we step back up here, but I think, staff, Mr. Biles, your team needs to probably
When should we
set
bring
those
this
meetings up.
back?
There's
Won't
a
it be good
deadline. we
timing
need
to
to-
bring it back, give you time to speak to all the commissioners?
The 9:15 meeting in Dade City.
Okay?
That should
Good
be
with everybody? September 5th?
Okay.
You want to make that motion? Or?
I'll move to continue this item.
Second.
Got a motion second, all those in favor say
So
aye.
that's to a
Time, date
time
certain?
certain.
Yes, sir.
At
Time certain.
9:15
9:15,
for the record?
Yeah.
9:30 or soon thereafter, it may be here. Thank you.
Okay?
Yeah,
All right, thank you.
thank you. I just knew we're going to have a lot of debate on just the
Yeah.
opening that doesn't probably need to happen.
Okay. P 114.
Item P114 was published in the Tampa Bay Times on February 17, 2021.
Denise Hernandez, Planning and Development. P114 is PDD 210290. On this one, this is the adoption hearing on this. There was a large presentation done on this about a month or so ago. This is an ordinance amending the Pasco County Comprehensive Plan, providing for a text amendment to the Central Pasco Employment Village sub-area policies, policy flu 7.1.12, providing for repealer, severability, and an effective date. And again, this is, we ask that you adopt this by, take public comment, and adopt by roll call vote.
Is the applicant here to speak on this item? Mr. Toots?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, ladies and gentlemen. Joel Tu and Associates, and I represent the applicant. I'm not going to make a presentation. Happy to address any public comments, but just as a polite reminder, of course, we vetted this at length. We got everyone happy at the transmittal hearing, including the Economic Development Council, staff, and other constituent property owners. There were no changes from the state. Nothing to my knowledge has changed. And so we would appreciate your consideration for final adoption. And then we do intend, just to update you, as we represented to the board, I've been working the last couple of weeks with the property owners and to implement the land use exchange that Mr. Cronin had recommended. It does appear that those property owners are going forward with that, and they'll be modifying their zonings to kind of improve the location of the employment and the residential uses as was suggested through that process. So far, so good, and the plan amendment adoption will allow us to proceed now with those zonings. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Is anyone signed up to speak to this item?
So no one has signed up in person, and no one has pre-registered for WebEx for this item.
Okay.
See, now move for approval.
Second.
Motion and second. All those in favor say aye.
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 Motion passed
Roll call.
4-0. Roll call.
Oh, it is a roll call vote.
Oh, roll call vote, okay.
District 2, Commissioner Moore.
Aye.
District 3, Commissioner Starkey. District 4, Commissioner Fitzpatrick.
Aye.
District 5, Commissioner Mariano.
Aye.
And District 1, Chairman Oakley.
Aye. Motion passed 4-0. Goes on to 115.
Item P115 was published in the Tampa Bay Times on June 30th, 2021.
Denise Hernandez, Planning and Development, PDD 217530 is P115. Wesley Chapel Lakes, MPUD. MI Homes of Tampa, substantial modification to propose entitlements for vacant parcels within the MPUD. The request is to continue the item to the September 28th, 2021 Board of County Commissioners meeting at 1:30 in Newport Richey.
Okay, is anyone here to speak to this item today?
This is an advertised continuance.
Advertise, continue.
Move to continue.
Second?
Got a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye.
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 Motion passed 4-0. 116.
Item P116 was published in the Tampa Bay Times on June 30th, 2021.
It's PDD 217540 in the name of Lake Como Co-op. This is a request for continuance to a date uncertain.
Move to continue the date uncertain.
Second?
Got a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Motion passed 4-0. P17.
Item P117 was published in the Tampa Bay Times on June 30th, 2021.
PDD 217546, a zoning amendment in the name of Weiss Smith Properties LLC. The request is to continue to the August 24th, 2021 Board of County Commissioners meeting at 1:30 in Newport Richey.
Motion to continue?
Second.
I have a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Motion passed 4-0. P118.
Item P118 was published in the Tampa Bay Times on June 9th, 2021.
It's PDD 210427 in the name of Sunwest Park PD, and this is request to continue the item to the September 15th, 2021 Board of County Commissioners meeting at 1:30 in Dade City.
Move to continue, time certain.
Second.
Got a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Motion passed 4-0. P19.
Item P119 was published in the Tampa Bay Times on June 23rd, 2021.
PDD 210432, this is a comprehensive plan amendment, text amendment to Chapter 7. This is being continued, a request for continuance to date uncertain, please.
Move to continue to a date
Second.
uncertain.
Okay, got a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye.
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 Motion passed 4-0.
Mr. Chair, Commissioners, if I can please move on to the addendum item that's a continuance.
Okay.
It would be PDD 217507 for purposes of notice.
Move to continue.
Second.
Got a motion and a second. All those in,
Let me speak on the continuance date.
Okay.
Do you have the proof of publication on that one?
I do.
Okay,
This is
thank
A 251.
PDD 217507, Seven Oaks.
252.
Oh, sorry.
I think there are two items. I apologize.
Okay, I'm sorry, 252. I have a typo
P what?
here.
252.
It's AP 252. I have, the publication on that is by affidavit of certified mailings and site postings.
Okay. That one is PDD 217507. It's Seven Oaks MPUD, parcel S19 DD SR 56 LLC and others. It's a rezoning request for an MPUD to modify the MPUD to allow the conversion of retail commercial entitlements on parcel S19. The request is to continue to the October 12th, 2021 Board of County Commissioners meeting at 1:30 in Dade City.
Move to continue the date time certain.
Second.
got a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye.
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 Motion passed 4-0.
Mr. Chair, on item P120, if we can pull that from consent, there are folks here to speak on that item. It should have been on regular. And if I can move on to P121, if that's
Okay.
okay with you.
Go ahead. P121.
Item P121 was published in the Tampa Bay Times on June 30th, 2021.
Should you do public hearing procedures, or because they're on consent, you want to just do it for the last one, or?
We can do public hearing procedures.
Okay.
If I can bring them up. There are two rezoning agendas, regular and consent. Staff will present each application to the Board of County Commissioners. If staff or planning commission has recommended approval and there is no opposition, the application will be considered by the board without further presentation. If the staff or planning commission has recommended denial, or if there is opposition to the application, the applicant will be given 5 minutes for presentation. The opposition will be given 3 minutes for each individual, or 5 minutes for a group representative, and the applicant will be given 3 minutes for rebuttal. Any individual disagreeing with staff or planning commission recommendation, or anyone wishing to object to any condition of the rezoning may at this time request the petition be pulled from the consent agenda, in which case that application will be heard under the regular agenda later on during the meeting. Otherwise, all rezoning applications on the consent agenda will be approved by a single motion and vote. If you wish to speak to any petition, please give your name and address and whether or not you've been sworn for the record. These are quasi-judicial public hearings. The law in Florida is that mere public support or opposition of an application is insufficient for this board to take action. Please limit your comments to those criteria found within the board's land development code.
Okay. Page 121? Is that-
Do you want to do a swearing in,
Swearing
just in
in.
case?
Okay, swear in.
Anyone here to speak to the remaining items on the agenda, please stand up and raise your right hands. Okay. Do you swear or affirm the testimony you're about to give is the truth, so help you God? Thank you.
Okay. P 121?
PDD 217544, it's a zoning amendment, the name of Cole Trust, Jeffrey A. Cole, trustee, Dollar General, 301 in Payne, for a change in zoning from an R1MH, single-family mobile home district, to a C2 general commercial district. Comes to you with a recommendation of approval from the Planning Commission and the Planning and Development Department.
Is there anyone here to speak against this item? Seeing no one, let it remain on consent. P 122.
Item P122 was published in the Tampa Bay Times on June 30th, 2021.
PDD 217545, zoning amendment in the name of Helen Cuoco, change in zoning from an R2 low-density residential district to a C2 general commercial district. Comes to you with a recommendation of approval from the Planning and Development Department and the Planning Commission.
Is there anyone here to speak against this item? Seeing no one, let it remain on consent. P 123.
Item P123 was published in the Tampa Bay Times on May 26, 2021.
PDD 21 CU 34, this is a conditional use for the District School Board of Pasco County, Vertex Development LLC, Vertex Wireless, for 150-foot above ground level, close mount wireless communications facility and an MPUD, Master Plan Unit Development District. Comes to you with a recommendation of approval with conditions as contained in your agenda packet from the Planning Commission and the Planning and Development Department.
Okay. Is there anyone here to speak against this item? Seeing no one, let it remain on consent and entertain a motion for the consent items.
Mr. Chair, just for the record,
Okay.
I want to state
Or is
that.
anyone signed up to
Right.
speak?
So on the items of P121, 122, and 123, there was no one pre-registered on WebEx.
Okay.
Thank you.
And you have proof for all those?
Approved for all of that.
I said all,
Did you-
I
okay.
did, I'm
Okay.
Yeah,
good.
she had that.
Sorry.
Move
That
approval
part
of
was
consent
it.
agenda?
Second.
All right, and a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, like sign. Okay, motion passed 4-0. Go back to the regular item is
120.
P
If someone
120.
can load the PowerPoint, please, on that item.
I'll say the proof while we're waiting for
Oh,
that.
thank you so much, I appreciate that.
Item P120 was published in the Tampa Bay Times on June 30th, 2021.
On this item, PDD 217516, this is for Kitty Campus University, Inc. It's for a change in zoning from AR1 to a PO1. If you would move to the next slide, please. The parcel is located on the southwest corner of the intersection of State Road 54 and Meadowbrook Drive. And the property is 1.67 acres. They propose to develop the property with PO1 district standards for development. If this looks familiar, it's because this item came to the board with a comp plan amendment to COM, which was denied on April 20th, 2021. And a companion rezoning had been filed at that time for C2 General Commercial District. If you would move on the next one. On April 22nd, 2021 and May 18th, the Planning Commission and the Board of County Commissioners had continued the rezoning to a date uncertain. And on June 7th, the applicant amended the application from C2 to PO1, so this is a request for PO1. It was reviewed by the Long Range Planning Division, and it was found to meet the locational criteria in the Comprehensive Plan, Future Land Use 1.6.5, which provides criteria to permit the location of office development within a residential future land use. This location is a Res 3 future land use. Also, I do want to mention that just today, was not presented to the Planning Commission, but just today, the applicant has submitted that they voluntarily agreed upon deed restriction, which I'm going to ask the board to please move to receive and file, that they agree to limit the building height to a maximum of 2 stories. So as you know, this area is located in an urban service area, and without this particular deed restriction, they would be able to have there's no building height. So I do want that to be received and filed, the proposed deed restriction. The deed restriction reads as follows. The following restriction is hereby imposed on the property for the benefit of the county unless otherwise approved by the county in connection with any subsequent rezoning of the property. Building height, 2 stories maximum. So would you please receive and file that deed restriction?
I need a motion to receive and
So
file.
moved.
Motion to receive and file, second.
All right, I got a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye.
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 So by way of...
Motion passed 4-0.
Thank you. By way of background, the subject location is zoned AR1, which is an agricultural residential district, 1 acre minimum lot sizes. If you look catty corner across the street where you see the MPUD and you kind of see like building shapes, that is the Suncoast Meadows MPUD, and that specific area was approved by the Board of County Commissioners in 2002 for a professional office use, specifically for PO2, which is a step up from PO1, which is what the current applicant is requesting. Additionally, if you look at 3 doors down to the west where you can see kind of the PO1, the Board of County Commissioners in 2018 approved a rezoning from AR1 to PO1 for that specific parcel as well. If you move on to the following slide, please. So the existing future land use, as you can see, is Res 3, which is also the future land use for the parcel that I explained to you in Suncoast Meadows. And the parcel that's 2 doors or 3 doors to the west that received a similar zoning classification or designation rather than this one. Would you move on to the next the next slide? It just shows the aerial of the property and the access. And the next slide, please. And this comes to you with a recommendation of approval from the Planning and Development Department and the Planning Commission, with the exception, of course, just to make it very clear, that the Planning Commission did not see the proposed deed restriction. And I'm here for any questions you may have.
Okay. The applicant want to speak?
I have a really quick PowerPoint. If staff could bring that up, please. Good afternoon. Great to see you all in person. 63 Barbara Wilhite, 6327 Grand Boulevard, Newport Richey, Florida, 34652. Happy to be back here with...
And you've been sworn?
I was sworn, yes.
Thank you.
In person. I didn't have to stand in my kitchen. Glad to be back here presenting this rezoning to you with staff with their recommendation of approval and Planning Commission's unanimous recommendation of approval. We heard the board's concerns, we heard the neighbors' concerns, and we amended our application to PO1. It's the lowest intensity non-residential use in your code. We also left the comp plan at Res 3, and that also is significant because that limits the maximum floor area ratio, limits the intensity on this parcel. If we would have changed it to COM for an office use, the floor area ratio is double of what it is as a Res 3. So we very strategically and purposely limited the intensity both through the comp plan and through the zoning district we chose to amend our application to have the least amount of intensity. As you know, this parcel is at the corner of a major arterial road intersection, lit intersection. It's not going to be non-residential. It's not going to be residential. This is the solution. Next slide. I did want to show you how this fits very well. The purpose of PO1 says PO1 office district is designed to be compatible with residentially developed districts and enhanced land use development along county major highways and roads. I couldn't have written that to fit this situation any better. So I wanted to show that to you in your zoning code. Next slide. These are the permitted uses in PO1. They're all office uses. The difference between PO1 and PO2, PO2 allows retail type. It allows a hair salon, nail salon, massage, personal services are allowed in PO2. And so we didn't want to bring forward anything that had anything commercial or retail oriented. So we are coming forward with the PO1. Next slide. These are the setbacks. Again, your code already sets up what the appropriate setbacks are from residential, your code, and these are what they are. We will meet those at a minimum. Next slide. These are your required landscape buffers. We will meet them at a minimum. I would point out on the south side, not only do we have a requirement for a type 10-foot buffer, as well as a setback requirement, but there's also 30 feet there. You have a county parcel that intervenes that's 30 feet wide. So there'll be quite a distance on the south side. I did want to explain to you the deed restriction. Listened very carefully at Planning Commission, listened to the concerns, looked at the PO1 district, and what your zoning administrator explained, Denise explained, is that in the PO1 district, height in the urban service area, there is no height. So I could see the residents' concern. So we continue to work with Ms. Honeywell and her group throughout this process. My clients worked closely with them, and my client agreed with her to do the no more than 2 stories. And so we brought forth a deed restriction to reflect that agreement that they reached on that. Next slide. This is the south side. This is an area where you'll see that this is how it looks. There's a 30-foot parcel for your creek, and then our parcels to the north. The distance between our parcel and the home there to the south is over 100 feet, about 100 feet. Next slide. Next slide. So this is the professional center to the northeast that Denise told you about. I drove by it the other day. I was in the area, kind of just driving around, looking at some of the projects that have gone in. And this is how your code applies with PO2 actually here in relative to houses and how they do coexist. Next slide. Here's another example. Next slide. You can see this is the Trinity Oaks Professional Center over in Trinity. You've got professional office on one side and you have homes on the other side. They exist very nicely together. They complement each other. I actually lived in this neighborhood for a while when I was in between houses, and the setbacks are much smaller for the homes here. The homes are much closer to the road than the homes in Meadowbrook, so I think it'll be a nice fit for the PO1. Next slide. Just another picture of how that looks in Trinity, and then the next slide. All the same, the area, and you can see those uses complement each other very nice. With that, we're available to answer any questions, but we'd appreciate your support. Thank you.
Okay, do we have anyone signed up to this item?
We do. We have three people signed up in person, and we have 2 that are on WebEx.
Okay, let's start with the first one in person here.
All right. Miss Sharon Honeywell Johnson, if you would please approach the podium, state your name and address for the record, and also whether you've been sworn.
Morning, Commissioners. My name is Sharon Honeywell Johnson, address 17300 Riverstone Drive within Middlebrook subdivision, and yes, I have been sworn. So we were very strongly opposing the commercial. Not that any of us in the neighborhood really want to see it developed, but I do know that we have been talking with Paul as well as with Barbara, that something is going to be going into this neighborhood. And I know there's going to be other people that will be speaking as well, but as long as, they did bring it down to 2 stories and as far as times and so forth, so at this point, I think, as far as we're concerned, we will be working along with them, but it's really going to be up to you. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments.
Next is Jennifer Robertson.
My name's Jennifer Robertson, 17245 Riverstone Drive, Booth, Florida, 33558.
And
Like
sworn.
Sharon said,
Have you been-
I was sworn in.
Thank you.
Like Sharon said, I don't oppose it, only because I feel like he will work with us. I do want to make a couple of corrections, though. The one that she said PO2, that's across the street, that was not PO2, that was a special exception for a realtor who only could have minimal customers. You know, there was a whole deed restriction with it, so that's not correct. Also, the ditch in the back, that's not 100 feet. One of the last meetings, there was a pregnant person that was here, and she and her husband went out there and measured the ditch, and it was 18 feet across. I think the county has, I want to say 30 feet. Yeah, 30 feet. So, you know, I just want to make sure that the picture they have is dry. Right now, it's very, very full. The problem is that ditch runs along, and on the next street over, which I think there's some people opposing online, the water runs through, and the county I've tried to talk with before about clearing the way so that the water will flow. It backs up, and it's covered our road just recently. And it's because there's a cattle gate on Brookside Drive that they'll clean all the way up to the cattle gate, and then it goes from 8 feet to 2 feet. And there's a water flow problem. So I do want that entered in there. I know Paul has talked about, and I know that they have to keep their own water on their own property. So I know it's not his problem, but I do want to point it out. Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
And the last person signed up, I'm going to apologize now because I don't know if I'm going to pronounce your last name correctly. Judy, is it Flavsik? Florzik. Thank you.
Hi, Judy Florzik, 17270 Rain Tree Road, Lutz, Florida, 33558. I'm not
And
opposed
have
or
you been
against.
Sworn.
Sorry?
Have you been sworn?
Oh.
You have to state for the record if you've been sworn or not.
Oh, I've been sworn.
Thank you.
Sorry.
Yes.
I'm not opposed or against or for the rezoning. I'm kind of neutral on this. I'm a newcomer to the area, but what I want to want to say to you guys is, I've enjoyed the expansive growth of Pasco County. I've witnessed it. It's amazing. You guys are doing a phenomenal job. I know there's a lot of thought that goes into the planning and development of what's going on in this county, and it's amazing. It's notable. It's even national news. So it's wonderful. Thank you for that. So I guess what I'm observing is in the new development, the residential neighborhoods, the entrances are big, they're expansive, the developments, the residences are set back off the road. The commercial development on the road in front is well thought about and executed. It's amazing. That's today. What I'm trying to get my arms wrapped around is the idea that we are trying to change something in front of a neighborhood that was established in the late 70s. So back then, when the dais was different with other people who were probably putting as much thought and effort into the development of the county at that point in time, they approved Meadowbrook Estates for what it is today, and it didn't include the way things are today. So I'm not opposed to change. I'm just saying that just because something can change, it doesn't mean that it should. So if you look at the entrance to Meadowbrook, it doesn't look anything like what's being established new today with these wonderful commercial establishments in front of them. That's great. But I'm a little worried about the safety pulling on and off a skinny long parcel that we're trying in, I'll use my words, shoehorn commercial property onto that could, number one, you've heard it before, the aquifer issue is one thing, the flooding, the storm drains is another, the noise that it would cause in the neighborhood. I guess what I'm asking here is that, again, I'm not opposed to change. And I'm just asking for your thoughtful appreciation of what was intended for this neighborhood 50 years ago, and not try and make it into something it was never meant to be. I'm asking for your thoughtful consideration in whatever you guys decide, so that it doesn't negatively impact the residents of Meadowbrook, especially the ones that are going to join whatever future development happens on 54. Our property values, our, the storm water, the safety of the traffic on that road. Thank you.
Thank you.
Why does that keep happening?
They're doing the timer from the Newport.
Oh, from Newport Richie?
Yeah,
They have a microphone on, it's
I finally figured it out.
disturbing.
So, is he signed up to speak?
He's not signed up.
Oh,
You
he's
need to
not?
take public comment, so.
Yeah. Have you been
Good
sworn?
afternoon. My name's Dan Winter. I live at 1505 Sierra Pines Boulevard.
And
My
sir, have
issues
you
are,
been sworn in?
pardon?
Have you been sworn in?
No.
Okay, let me go ahead and do that.
Okay.
Do you swear?
My issues are flooding and traffic.
No, you need to be
No,
sworn before
you
you
gotta be
can speak.
sworn before you
Okay.
speak.
Just give me 1 second.
I do.
Okay. Do you swear or affirm the testimony you're about to give is the truth, so help you God?
I do.
Thank you. Go ahead.
All right, my concerns are flooding and traffic, okay, with this zoning change. That's the only access out of our neighborhood to the north. The only other way is to the south off Sierra Pines Boulevard. Traffic on 54 right now is pretty bad. I'm sure you're aware of it. And I think that this strip of land that they're talking about is long and narrow. That picture of a creek that I saw up there with the wooden fence, or the white fence, I should say, that creek is up to that fence right now. I'm just concerned where all this water is going to go. And traffic is also going to be an issue there. As I said, it's our only exit out of the back to the north. So I oppose the zoning change. Vote with your hearts. Vote for the 200 and some homes that are back there that are going to be locked in. It's going to be a mess. So that's all I got to say. Okay, thank you.
Okay, thank you. And we have 2 people signed up on WebEx.
Yes, and a third, I think, is trying to connect. So we can take the 2 that are on WebEx now.
Okay.
Okay. Let's see. My first person that is signed up on WebEx is Douglas Grant.
I have not been sworn in.
Okay. If you would please raise your right hand. Do you swear or affirm the testimony you're about to give is the truth, so help you God?
Yes.
Great. If you could state your name and address for the record, sir.
My name is Douglas Grant, and I live at 2235 Brookside Drive. Next slide. Next slide, please. I object to the rezoning because the properties don't meet the criteria for Flu Policy 165 for office development. The policy states that the development can't be an intrusion into any residential area. Intrusion means the site cannot be located between 2 residential uses, unless also separated by a collector road. There is no collector road. Next slide. Next slide. The kitty campus parcels are 2 separate lots, not 1 lot, as applicant implies. There's a north lot and a distinct south lot. Next slide. The policy refers only to a collector road as an acceptable separator between the development and neighboring residential uses. Meadowbrook Drive is next to the kitty campus lots. Meadowbrook Drive is not a collector road. According to DOT definitions, Meadowbrook Drive is a local road, it has low volume, only residential traffic. It's relatively short, only a half mile, and has high access for abutting property. It's lined by single-family homes. Next slide. Long-range planning acknowledges this condition, which should have been the end of the zoning application instead of going to the planning commission, let alone this board. Next slide. The distinct South Kid campus lot is bordered by Narrow Creek, which is a tributary of nearby wetlands and Anclote River. The policy doesn't call out a waterway as a divider, and obviously, the creek isn't a collector road. Next slide. Therefore, regarding the neighboring residential uses, the north lot is between residential properties to the east and west. Again, Meadowbrook Drive isn't a separator. Next slide. The distinct south lot is surrounded by residential properties, mostly developed with single-family homes. Next slide. Next slide. Next slide. Next slide. Next slide. Next slide. The applicant wants that the developer will remove all vegetation. Then they will backfill the land up to the soil. The applicant hasn't provided the design for the office complex. Therefore, the BCC must assume the largest structure allowed by policy. Next slide. They can construct up to a 35-foot tall, whether it's 2 stories or 3 stories, structure within 7.5 feet of certain property boundaries. Next slide. Neither the north or south lots qualify for rezoning as office because of intrusion. Any similar intrusion conditions apply per policy 126.4 for commercial, which is part of the reason the board rejected the applicant's previous comp plan amendment request. Intrusion then, intrusion now. There is no other P01 development along State Road 54 that is an intrusion into residential development. Needless to say, the county should start disregarding its own policy. We respect your policy and obligations in those matters. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Next.
Yes, we have Terry Grant is next.
I have not been sworn in.
Okay, if you could please raise your right hand. Do you swear or affirm the testimony you're about to give is the truth, so help you God?
I do.
Thank you. Please state your name and address, and then you can proceed.
I'm Terry Grant. I reside at 2235 Brookside Drive, Woods, Florida. Next slide. I object to zoning the 2K campus lots for office development. My objections are based on a Pasco County policy that prohibits office development from intruding into residential neighborhood. An office complex will exacerbate flooding in the surrounding property district. Also, this information the applicant and county staff provided to support the proposal during a previous hearing. Next slide. Applicant claimed the Meadowbrook Estates residents want an office complex of the 2 parcels. One presenter, a consultant whose claim the Meadowbrook residents suggested an office building instead of a gas station. That's one voice. So it's misleading when the applicant claims all Meadowbrook homeowners want the zoning. The applicant and the county show the property as one lot. That's false. There are 2 separate lots, which is important because they don't qualify for rezoning as office under State Policy 1.6.5, especially the south lot. Next slide. The applicant accounted by owning property 3 lots west to justify rezoning both 2 campus lots. That's invalid. The other lot is about 1,000 feet west of 2 campus north and next to a commercial lot, a storage warehouse. There's no similar lot west of 2 campus south. The 2 lots don't match those conditions because they're surrounded by an AR. An office would definitely be an intrusion into the Meadowbrook community. Next slide. Intrusion on the west lot would look like this slide to justify rezoning the 2 campus lots because the county is using the tributary as a boundary for development. Next slide. By the way, the tributary flows to a protected wetland and as far as our neighborhood we currently, let alone more development at its bank. Next slide. Regarding that storage complex, the county developer originally assured us that would be developed a 2-story Class A office building with no night lighting or weekend activity. Thus, I have doubts that the key campus rezoning will result in constructing a main office complex because of the bait and switch tactics according to developers. Next slide. Years ago, a homeowner at key campus had a temporary conditional special exemption to use a small portion of their house as an office. The property was not rezoned, and yet the applicant and county continued to use that expired exemption as a false precedent for rezoning. Next slide. Applicant claims that the key campus lots are not suitable for agriculture use. That's invalid because the south lot is surrounded by AR with land, single-family house. Someone could build a nice family home there. Other properties in Meadowbrook Estates along that same horizon distance from State Road 54 are AR with homes. Kitty Campus knew they were buying AR property, and so the developer that's purchasing the land from Kitty Campus. Next slide. Please vote nay to any rezoning of the Kitty Campus lots. Please preserve the integrity of this unique and beloved neighborhood. Thank you for your time and consideration.
Thank you.
And the last person who has registered and is online with WebEx is Michael Tompkins. Mr. Tompkins, are you there?
Can you hear me?
We can hear
Yes,
you.
sir.
Okay, I'm sorry, I was totally unprepared. I've been sick, but so I wasn't prepared. I apologize. I mean, I do, I haven't been sworn in either.
Okay, if you would please, if you would please raise your right hand.
Okay.
Do you swear or affirm the testimony you're about to give is the truth, so help you God?
I do.
Thank you. You can proceed by first stating your name and address and then your comments.
Michael Tompkins, I'm at 2405 Brookside Drive, Woods, 3558. And really, I moved out here, I bought this property in 82, the warehouse in 83, 1883. We've been out here since 1984. And the flooding, since they did all the development across 54 really got bad. Down here on that, but there's been times where the only way we could get in or out of our property was with the Jeep. The continued, like the storage shed that was pointed out on one of the previous slides that was built behind us has caused flooding on the back half of my property. The whole time that we were out here, we never had flood insurance up until this past year. So, you know, it's going to be a burden on the neighborhood to do any commercial development on those two lots over there. Because they deliver water like everything else when we have some big rains. And there was a brand new house that was shown on one of the slides that this last door I've always feel it next one got water for the garage doors. So any further development of that without going all the way through the storage shed lot behind us and on over to Dade City. They're going to have to find all that out all the way down to the Kentucky River. And I don't, for some reason, I don't see the county doing that because we have a hard time getting this into our subdivision. That's probably not all I have to say.
And that's it for WebEx, yes.
Okay. No one else has signed up. Is anyone in the room that have not signed up would like to speak to this item? If not, applicant.
Just briefly, three things, kind of themes you heard there. One was flooding. The engineer is here from Beacon Civil, actually Jairus, he's a planner, but he's representing the engineering firm, and he will talk to and work with any of the residents. I've seen him do it many, many times, so as he goes through with his firm to design the project, I encourage the neighbors to reach out to Beacon Civil and talk about, you know, the different things that they've seen out there regarding flooding. We can't make the flooding worse. There's plenty of regulations on the books regarding flooding, but what is important is for neighbors to talk to neighbors. And so I put that out there that the civil on the project is willing to do that. The second thing is the comp plan you heard. There's a specific long-range consistency review report in your record prepared by the Long-Range Planning Department. I know Mr. Pitos spoke at Planning Commission too, so if you had any questions about comp plan, it's already covered. I won't belabor that, but I know Mr. Pitos can speak to it as well. And the third thing is there won't be any bait and switch. Unlike an MPUD that sometimes you can't see what's in it, you can't see what it's on the face of the zoning map. This is PO1. It's a Euclidean zoning district. It's going to have a recorded deed restriction. Can't be more than 2 stories, and that's what it's going to be. And any change to that comes back through a public hearing process. That would go back through the same process we've been through. Thank you.
Thank you. Any questions, discussion?
Sure, I got a few questions.
Go ahead.
Maybe staff can help. With the stormwater requirements right now, what do we have in place? Like, what event does it have to hold its own water?
Just wondering if we have staff here that can answer that question, or maybe even online. I know we have someone from Long Range on the line to answer the comp plan item. But I mean, they're definitely gonna have to provide a stormwater management plan and report. That's all part of the preliminary site plan process.
Terry's coming for one, I think.
Reason I ask the question is sometimes on certain areas, we would put stronger requirements than what was just.
It's not in a specific drainage basin as far as I'm concerned, if that's the question.
Right, I understand that.
Sorry.
But what I'm wondering is, sometimes we had others put in a stronger stormwater requirement in what was there, something
This is a
further.
Euclidean zoning, so you can do that on a master plan development
Mhm.
that you can condition, but this is Euclidean, so they have to meet Swift Mud regs and ours on top of that if they're more stringent, but that's all that you got.
What if they volunteer to do so?
They can design to whatever standard they're comfortable designing to, which exceeds
Yeah,
Swift Mud regs.
they could do more.
Yeah, they could do more.
Okay, well, if they agree to it, so, yeah, if I could get an answer, what requirements are there right now?
Good afternoon, Brad Tippin, Planning and Development. We don't have our stormwater people in the room, but generally, the requirement is that the post-development rate of discharge off of the site cannot be any worse than the discharge off of the site prior to development. Whether they are able to further restrict that flow, there are some downstream things. Water is very tricky. It's one of those things where you don't want to cut off water supply to other folks downstream that previously had water supply. So there's a balance that they keep. We review that very carefully during the process, and we make sure that there's not going to be adverse effects.
But isn't there a certain stormwater event, with like a 25-year?
Yes, there's 25-year and 100-year storms, depending on the type of basin that it's in. I am not aware that it is in the most restrictive basin, but I would have to have someone get back to you with that for sure.
If you could, Mr. Chairman, maybe you could bring the engineer up and we talk to him for a minute? The applicant's engineer? He may know.
Good afternoon, Commission. Jairus Barbie. I'm a principal planner for Beacon Civil Engineering, so I can't speak to that specific engineering requirements, but what I can tell you is...
Jairus, have you been sworn?
Oh, I have been sworn, sorry.
Thank you.
Sorry. But I can tell you that we will go through Swift Mud requirements, FDEP requirements, and Pasco County requirements, and Pasco County requirements are generally a little bit above and beyond that of Swift Mud. And also, if we impact any of the floodplain, we'll have additional floodplain compensation. So there will be both, in the designs that we have put forth so far, we would have storm tech design as well as some detention that's above grade.
All right, let me ask you this. The ditch that's between, to the south of the properties, who owns that ditch?
That is Pasco County's property.
Okay. We had a situation a few years ago when a Hampton Inn came in along US 19, and there was a Florida dental place beside it. And we structured an agreement to where instead of building one pond here and another pond right beside it, they thought and worked with Swiftmud on it that they combined both together, and it created a better capacity for flow. So instead of just having that narrow ditch running down through, and not to be narrow, but 14, 18 feet wide, but it could be larger and create, I think, even more stormwater capacity. Is that something you guys would be willing to look at doing?
I would say we would be willing to look at doing whatever we can to help out the situation there, but the ultimate requirements of that would fall on my client to answer that specific question of whether or not we would do above and beyond improvements outside of our limits of our property. If that sufficiently answers the question.
It doesn't give me the answer I'm looking for as far as that goes, but it's part of the conversation, so I'll let the other board members go at this point.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes, sir.
You used to work for the county, right?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, so you're pretty familiar with the rules and regulation of the
Yes, sir. I've
County.
made recommendations to this board. That's what.
All right,
Should,
Thank you.
all right, thank
should
you.
know.
All right.
Hey, Mr. Chairman, just one statement, and I appreciate everybody that spoke today, and as we saw the public hearing, the last public hearing, when there was a different application that came through, there were quite a few, not quite a few, very many residents, obviously, and we appreciate that showed up, and that was at the, apologize, let me get a little closer here, at the Newport Richie location, and we did listen, and have had conversations with quite a few folks over the last few months. So I do appreciate the applicant and his team working together with if I'm not correct, quite a few residents there to come to a happy median. I would say that, you look at office and what impacts this will have. There's not a whole lot they can do now at this location. So the traffic really will be minimal under this classification. We're not looking at like the heavy commercial. I know we didn't know what was going to happen last time, but the rumors abound or that it might have been a filling station or a convenience store of some type. Obviously, we know that would have had a dramatic impact on the community, especially with the ingress egress being on that Meadowbrook Drive. But when you think about office, if this was going to be in the middle of the neighborhood, there's no way I would let it fly, because that's not the right fit. And that was talked about earlier, right? It's on the front, it's on 54, very small impact. But working with the residents and the majority of the people I've spoken with are fine with this, and I'm fine with it. So I'll make a motion for approval.
Have a
Second.
motion and a second. All those in favor?
Mr. Chairman, just a little bit discussion, just if I could. And Mr. Stein tried to coach me a little bit there, if you would. I want to make sure that they do work with the best bit of stormwater they can do within the realm of making it all work as well. And if you'll just, let's say, you just say that you will, I mean, you're not going to be bound to it, I guess, but I think we can do some really good things out there. Might be a little bit out of the box, but. Yeah.
On behalf of the applicant, we will. We voluntarily agreed to a deed restriction. We've worked with Ms. Honeywell Johnson and her group. We will continue. My client and Ms. Honeywell Johnson have a professional relationship, goes back many years. So we will continue to work on this. Thank you.
Yeah. Miss Honeywell Johnson, she is the eyes and ears, and I know she won't make sure nothing gets through. That shouldn't happen. I can pretty much guarantee you that. And I have a feeling her and the engineering firm and the planners are going to have a very, very close relationship in the coming weeks and months.
Well, we appreciate the applicant and what they do to help protect and water. Water issues are big and they're a big concern in the county, but we know you follow the guidelines and within the parameters of what you're required to make sure that you look at it. If you can do something extra that'll help it even better, then we'll appreciate that.
Yeah, we want to make sure of that.
And I'd like to say, Ms. Wilhite, thank you for working with the community. Thank you for the community and neighborhood to work with you so closely to come up with a smart growth project, because it's really important. And I really feel that this is a project that it's going to better complement the community. So thank you for working together.
And Mr. Chairman?
Yes, sir.
And I'd like to say that I appreciate the applicant changing to go to this. I know it took the opposition of the residents to make that happen, but I'm glad the compromise was done with the residents as well. I will say after the hearing, I did talk to the county attorney about doing this exact type of thing, but it's glad to see that you made it happen, working with the residents to make it happen, because I think something has to go here. This is the least intrusive that can go in that does make sense, so it's a great resolution, I think.
Okay. All right, I have a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All opposed, like sign. All right, motion passed 4-0. We will now take up item 107.
No, you got one more, 124.
Oh, we got-
P124.
We do?
P124.
Oh,
regular item.
excuse me.
It was hiding.
I saw it was hiding back here. All right, P124.
So item P124 was published in the Tampa Bay Times on July 4th, 2021 and July 11th, 2021.
Yes, sir, Mr. Chair, Board, on the 6th of July, you approved the Sheriff's Office request to apply for this grant, the Edward Byrne Memorial Program with the Department of Justice. As part of that requirement, as part of the grant requirement, you're required to take public comment on the grant. At that meeting, you set the public comment date for today at this time, and so the request is for you to take public comment on the grant and then approve distribution, and we'll move on and meet the DOJ requirement.
Okay. Is there anyone here signed up to speak?
See none, move approval.
Second?
I got a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, like sign. Motion passed 4-0. Now we'll move back to 107.
I guess I can't put it off any longer.
It's on you, you gotta do it.
Okay, so the item that you have before you is to adopt Resolution 21-250. That would, in fact, it is a resolution that makes the county part of accepts what is known as the Florida Plan for opioid, for the proceeds of the opioid litigation. As outside counsel explained to you in your shade meeting, the Attorney General's office has circulated a memorandum of understanding of how any proceeds from settlements of this litigation would be distributed among the counties and cities and the state in Florida. They have proposed a memorandum of understanding, which is the first step into a formal settlement agreement with the state with regard to these funds. Outside counsel recommends that you, in fact, show your approval for that memorandum of understanding, as does the county attorney. The resolution that we provided in your packages under 107 not only does that, but it starts to move you towards compliance to being a qualified county so that the money will be directly distributed to Pasco County. Section 6 of the original resolution that is in your agenda package has establishes the Pasco County Opioid Task Force. Based on some of the concerns that were expressed earlier today and to me privately, with the composition and membership of the Opioid Task Force as we had delineated it in the resolution, I've provided you all a revised resolution that the composition and membership of the Opioid Task Force shall be established by a separate resolution. That is the only change to the resolution that is before you. The resolution also provides the authority for the county administrator to negotiate the interlocal agreements necessary with the largest municipalities in Pasco County. And I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Okay. Any questions?
Mr. Senator?
Yes.
Mr. Chairman? In it, we had talked about the allocations, how they had to be spent, and I don't see anything in here about as far as the ratio to previous expenditures that we had compared to others, and I guess 30% was what we could look to reimburse ourselves for our expenses before. Does that need to be in here, or is it just?
That would have to be in the memorandum of understanding directly, and I understand from outside counsel that it is to be put in the memorandum of understanding if it's not in this most current draft.
Okay.
But that is going to be controlled by not your resolution supporting the memorandum of understanding. It's got to be in the memorandum of understanding itself.
Okay.
And if if you wish to adopt the resolution that I've revised that takes out the membership, after that motion, I'll need some direction as to what the proposed membership is to look like. But I know Commissioner Starkey wanted to weigh in on the membership of the task force as well. So it may be better just to bring that back to you at your next meeting.
Right, we can approve this the way it is. In the task force is going to be advisory as well. So
Right.
we get flexibility to set it up as well as.
Right,
listen to
so
feedback
what
as well.
you've done is, what this resolution does is it sets up the concept of you have one, you have not, and then we'll bring you back at your next meeting, another resolution that sets up its membership that you can discuss. But this is the resolution supporting the memorandum of understanding is what I need to get to the Attorney General's office, by their established deadline.
Okay, I'm good.
I would like, Mr. Chairman,
ahead.
I would like to ask to secure a position for ASAP to be a member of the,
We're not
for
doing
them
that.
to
We're not doing
have.
that yet.
It's
That's gonna come back.
not under B to add it.
Well, okay, so I'm proposing that nobody be appointed today, or
Right.
that you all have a separate discussion about membership, because that seems to be the critical factor that there's not true consensus on at this point. And so to get Resolution 21-250 adopted, my suggestion is that the revised one that I passed out on the dais here, which says, in section B, the composition and membership of the opioid task force shall be established by separate resolution, is what you adopt today.
Okay, that makes sense.
We'll just bring that back. I don't think anybody would agree with you that ASAP should be on
Yeah.
there because they do opioid.
Yeah.
But we're not gonna do that today. We're gonna bring that back next time.
Okay.
Yeah.
Cool.
Move
for
approval. Second.
Oh, second. What? You can get his first. He was quicker. I'll do the second.
I got 2 motions, 2 seconds, and,
I'm the second.
all right, I got a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, like sign. Motion passed 4-0.
One each from
And with that, we'll go to,
not two,
I think, old business.
I think you're right.
Mr. Moore.
Thank you. All right, I'll read quick. Thank you. TDT numbers for May. I just want to share a little bit about the Tourist Development Council numbers for May. TDD collections for May 2021 were actually up 96% over May 2020. Imagine that, right? Great testament to the work that our DMO has been doing. We really appreciate Adam and the entire team beefing up tourism in Pasco County. If you look at May TDT collections, they're actually up over 4% in 2019, so we're on track to have our best year ever, and we really appreciate it. Anybody has time, staff, whoever, had the opportunity to be on Spectrum's In Focus program, which was hosted by Allison Walker. The great thing about that program, besides being in the Tampa Bay market, it was also in the Central Florida market around Orlando too. So I had the opportunity to spend an hour with her, as well as Commissioner Kimberly Overman from Hillsborough County, to talk about sports tourism and the impact sports tourism has on the not only the entire Bay Area, but the entire state. So thank you to Ms. Walker and Spectrum for allowing me to participate. Two more things I wanted to mention. If you didn't see it on the consent agenda today, just wanted to special thanks to our PCPT team. FDOT had 3 vehicles that were in surplus. We were awarded them at no cost, which is awesome. Now we have more paratransit vehicles out in the community for our residents, and it didn't cost our local taxpayers any additional dollars on top of what they probably paid in sales tax that goes to the state that FDOT pays for their vehicles for. So thank you to them. And one last thing, well, happy school year to everybody that's watching. I'm sure they're all tuning in today while they're in class, but happy first day of school. But I do have just something to think about, and the team and Mr. Biles and your team and whoever and our other team members that are here today. Unfortunately, I've had quite a few complaints lately in reference to, I'm not saying that county complaints as much as it is complaints that there's some projects out there that are dumping a lot of water on the neighbors. I've heard that more and more over the last several weeks. than I've heard in the past. I just want to make sure we keeping a close eye on this, because Donald Carey and his team doing a great job, but I'm keeping them busy right now, and as well as Swift Mud. So John Pawanda from Swift Mud, I appreciate him as well, is having to go out there. I think we had, I'm just going to let Andy do a nod. It was 3 and then another one today or yesterday as well, where we can see that, you know, the runoff is coming from these projects. And we actually, I won't mention which one, but we have something that's going to come in front of us probably in the next month or so, a project we'll be voting on that I think got turned down. No, it didn't get turned down. It was a 3-2 vote. Sorry, I lost the 3-2 vote. But one of my concerns was about the possible water at this project. And now to come to find out that the neighboring property is already building some townhouses, it's spitting water on this one property owner at this time. And that project, I won't even mention it, it's going to come in front of us in the future. But it's one of the things I mentioned that we have to be very concerned about this, because there's already a possible impact, and that impact is happening now. And that was a local farmer that has cattle in their fields, and now they can't even have the cattle pits because this is flooding them out. So, we need to be more conscious, I think, and continue to be more conscious of what's going on when we're going through the process of making sure, because we say there can't be one drop of water that impacts a neighboring property. Well, we need to be very, very considerate of that now and in the future. I'm not saying we're not. Things happen. I get it. It's been very rainy. At the same time, if it wasn't there a week before and it's there now, it's obvious what's going on. Okay, that's all. Thank you.
Okay. Mr. Fitzpatrick.
Thank you. I would like to say I was honored to attend the Rosalie Residence Blessing and Ribbon Cutting. Pasco County and St. Vincent de Paul Cares has a very strong partnership to try to end homelessness and provide affordable and permanent supportive housing for Pasco County. And since March of last year up until now, we've been able to house 191 households. So I feel it's really important that we continue to work together. They have an 85% positivity rate to end homelessness and not to go back into homelessness. And then also, in the past 9 months, St. Vincent de Paul Cares has already ended homelessness with Pasco County of 267 households. So I think that's a phenomenal job, and I would love to continue to work together to end homelessness in Pasco County. Also, with it being back to school, I've been attending multiple backpack drives. I was out to help fill 30,000 backpacks one Saturday morning, and I was really excited to go back out just this past weekend and watch and be there to help with the distribution, and then also going over to help with Pastor Troy over at the backpack drive in Moon Lake. As many of you are aware, today is the first day of school, so I would like to say thank you to all of our students and staff and teachers, and welcome back to school, and thank you for everything that you do. I hope you have a safe and healthy year. And Marjorie's Hope is an amazing nonprofit which is there to help. They can supply school supplies, backpacks, clothing for children that may need clothing or any supplies, and then they also supply school supplies to teachers to help in their classrooms. I would like to say thank you to Pat Phillips with Code Enforcement. I had some complaints over in Magnolia Valley with the big rig trucks that were parked out front. Also, I did call Alex Alt, thank you. When I drove by with my legislative aide, Rich, I was able to contact a few of the big rig companies, and they came out and they removed their vehicles pretty quickly. Code has worked very diligently, and they're putting up signs for that they're not allowed to park there. So, and they're also educating them on where they can park. Lastly, I'm gonna follow up with Commissioner Moore. I have been working off Massachusetts with a project, and I feel it's really important that we do consider new projects. We have one project that was done years ago, and it was built up, and right now I have about 5 homes that the water flows off the adjacent property down into their backyards, and it's affecting their septic tanks. They can't go to the bathroom, they can't shower, it's affecting their daily lives, and nothing has been being done right now to help with them, and they're living there and they can't even use the bathroom, and they can't cook, they can't shower, they can't do anything, because their backyards are so full of the water and the flooding that their leach fields can't use their septic tanks properly. So I would like to see how we can address that more quickly and hopefully very, very soon, because that is affecting their quality of life. Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, and I don't want to interrupt, and I should have brought, as this microphone literally breaks right in front of me. I think maybe we can have some time maybe to just bring back, maybe just, let's talk about the review process a little bit more. Commissioner Mariano, you brought it up too, and had some questions earlier, right? I just think we need to have some further discussions about that review process. Because, I mean, sorry, there's a few things happening I don't think should be going on.
Okay.
I agree.
Yes, sir.
I'll just touch on that just for a second too. You know, one of the things I was talking about as far as like the stormwater requirements that we have, they're in place. There are other requirements for different storm events, which might have been one of these latest storms that, okay, it protected for that other storm, but on a big, heavy event, that may not be enough to go. So, yeah, I think we need to take a look at all of it as we go.
These families have been going for the past 3 weeks to the past month. I'm getting calls and photos daily that they can't take a shower. Something has to be done sooner than later.
Is that everything?
Oh, I'm done. Thank you.
Okay.
Okay.
Mr. Mariano?
I want to say I had a great meeting at the Tampa Bay Regional Planning Council yesterday. There was a lot of talk about resiliency, and, you know, Commissioner Moore, years ago, he says, you know, what's the relevancy? And Sean Sullivan would say it many times. I'm sure you heard it when you were there as well. I'll say it's very relevant to what they're doing right now. There's going to be a summit meeting coming up, but more critical than that is getting ready for the meeting. It's be the second one we had. We skipped last year because of COVID. But one of the things we talk about is development coming up, especially along the coast. Not only be resilient, but be smart about it. One of the things we had trouble with Boatyard Avenue was a guy wanted to build a seawall a certain height. We had to fight that for months. We finally got it to the height. And we're still having troubles getting those things done. Broward County, Palm Beach County, Miami-Dade, they've been working on this for probably 10 years ahead of us before we even started our coalition from a couple of years ago. And one of the things they did was this storm surge or sea level rise, whatever they want to call it, that may be as much as 5 feet by 2060 in the Tampa region, it's from 3 feet to 3.5 feet. I want to allow people to take a look at that and study that before we have the summit meeting. They're willing to work with us. They're working with the others other than the region as well. But I think it's going to be very optimal to go look at seawall construction, fill around canal homes. Over in Broward County, when someone lives on a canal, they want them to build it up so that it stays drier. And if the guy beside him doesn't build his up, they actually look at penalties for that guy, whereas we do the exact opposite of that. To me, it's the better height that you have, the better off you're going to be. When the water rises up over the seawall, once it's behind you, it's flowing out down the street, working its way up, way back out anyway. That's like one of the things to look at. Septic to sewer conversions coming up too. Around the whole state, there's a whole new set of grants out there, and the Regional Planning Council is working with the other counties as well to look at these different grants. And I've already talked to, Colleen's actually worked with our staff, Adam Biddlecom and company, to try to look at what other things we can go do out there. We've got some other things working where we've done research. Stormwater runoff, trying to deal with that up front, up and down the coast. They love the idea of the baffle boxes, which take stormwater runoff from the get-go. So on like places like Gulf Harbors where they have stormwater that drains right into the canal right beside it and silts in around it, it's got to be dredged out. There's ways to contain that. So I'm trying to get us to work together, not only just with the counties together, but get SWIFMA at the table, get FEMA at the table. So everybody can say, this is what we can do to build better as we're coming forward, to build safer and smarter. So I want us to kind of just encourage staff that over the next couple of weeks, 3 weeks, 4 weeks, that we actually work to go with the Regional Planning Council staff and the rest of the people, players in the region, to try to put us in a better position for the future. So that sounds okay, and Dan's got general acknowledgement of that, then I'm happy to just keep on working that. That sound like a reasonable thing to do? Okay. And that's all I have.
All right. Mr. Biles?
Yes, sir, I'll start with some good news. Our Extension Office won some Tampa Bay Times People's Choice Awards this year. They won the award for the best festival, and they were the silver winner for the San Antonio plant sale. So I'll start with that. I'll follow it up with keep an eye on the Atlantic and the Caribbean right now. We have a storm brewing out there. We're in the cone. Of course, we're several days out. It's Florida. It's August. We're in the height of hurricane season. Be prepared, be ready. EM's watching it. They're already spinning up the public works to make sure we're watching the height and where we are in our stormwater gauges and stuff. So we're preparing, we're ready. If we need to open up more sandbag locations, we will. Just keep that in the back of your mind. It is out there and there's one behind it, but it's that time of year. Next 45 to 60 days, that's what we do here. So that's all I have, sir.
Okay, thanks, sir. Mr. Stanislau?
I don't have anything additionally. We'll put the resolution back on for you to discuss at your next meeting. And I appreciate your attendance in the litigation assessment meeting so that we can get some direction. Thank you.
Good, thank you. Madam Clerk?
Yes, sir, thank you. I've talked to the board a couple times about my Office of Inspector General, and I wanted to give you another update on them. So since I became clerk in July of 2019, really wanted to change things in that office and bring them up to what we consider international auditing standards. And we've gone through a process of revamping basically our entire process in there. So how do you know if you're meeting those international standards? You seek a voluntary peer review. And last month I informed you that we have sought that peer review for the entire department and the team and their audit practices, and an outside inspector general. They came in and audited our workflows, our policies, our procedures, and our audits of the inspector general team, and they found that we were in complete compliance with the, let me get this right, International Professional Practices Framework, which is also called the Red Book. Those are promulgated by the Institute of International Auditors. A peer review is a rigorous process and is also the gold standard. The auditors that came in, one was a deputy inspector general from the city of New Orleans and in the Office of Inspector General, and the other one was Flora Miller, who is the peer review committee chairperson for the Association of Inspector Generals, and she's also employed with the Office of Inspector General, Department of Children and Families in Tallahassee. I want to thank Chairman Oakley and County Attorney Jeff Steinsnyder, County Administrator Dan Biles, and Assistant County Administrator Kathy Pearson. All participated in the peer review through interviews with the external auditors, and the external auditors concluded that we are in compliance with the IIA standards and that we are also conducting independent audits. So I wanted to let you know that because our office works very closely with the county on your day-to-day functions and providing feedback and input to you. The other item I wanted to mention was the Florida Court Clerks and Controllers has an Excellence in Best Practices Recognition Program, and it's designed to encourage clerks and controllers offices throughout the state to strive for excellence in providing services to our communities and government partners. The awards recognize clerks whose offices successfully execute the statewide best practices issued by the FCCC, and my office was presented excellence in 7 categories of 7 possible categories. And for 2021, included compliance services, confidential judicial records, guardianship audits, bail bond forfeitures, marriage license, recording fundamentals, and service of pro se documents by clerks. I want to congratulate my records team, civil courts, criminal courts, finance and information technology departments. They all did an amazing job, and just want to let you know we're helping Pasco reach the premier service, the premier county level, right, by performing that. So just wanted to let you know, and congratulations.
Okay, thank you. Okay, as we all know, there are a number of projects we're currently working on in Lacoochee and Trilby areas in the county. These include economic development projects in Lacoochee communities such as Bauer Road and Coit Road, updating our planning policies and strategies for the northeast Pasco rural area, and FDOT's planned improvements for the roads like 301 among others. I would like to ask if you would, the board would direct the Planning and Development Department to look at what opportunities there are in coordinating these efforts to bring more interest, energy, and investment to the area while respecting the rural character of the community. PDD should develop a scope of work for planning consultant to create a preliminary non-binding concept plan for this geographic area, similar to the early work in the VOPH before it was adopted in the comprehensive plan, with exact boundaries of the geographic area to be recommended by the Planning and Development Department and approved by the BCC as part of the scope of the work. As you know, this community in Lacoochee, and we've been working this and talking about it for many years, it's finally come to fruition that people are moving in and we're going to have jobs and manufacturing jobs for people. But at the same time, we've had a school that had lost students, and their enrollment's been down to like 50% and all this. But with bringing the manufacturing in and bringing those jobs there for people to live, then we need a place for them to live. We need workforce housing, and we need more of a community in that area. And I've had this vision here lately that I'm going to see a grocery store or a grocery chain come into Lacoochee in the future and really make this a location on the map and bring it out of the poverty and the things that they've gone through since it's been over 60 years since that plant had shut down with the Cummer and Sons. And we've been talking about developing, but when you talk about developing and bringing in jobs and all, you're also talking about the fact that there's going to need to be other services in that area. So we need to provide homes for folks in that area, and we want to provide those homes for them rather than them going to Hernando County or some other county. So we want to make sure that we take care of them ourselves and have those manufacturers and jobs in that area. So any discussion about this, or what do you think? There's nothing wrong with good planning out ahead, because we can't go in this and keep adding jobs and all there and not have a place for people to live, or have services like grocery stores and doctors and things of that nature in that area.
I guess, I'm sorry, I'm kind of confused of it. Tell me again the exact direction you're trying to give the county attorney, or the county's.
Well, we've been striving to bring in manufacturing in Lacoochee and develop it.
No, I mean, give me again what your recommendation, you're asking one more time, what exactly you're asking staff to do.
I'm asking Planning and Development Department to look at what opportunities there are coordinating these efforts to bring more interest, energy, and investment to the area while
I guess what's their direction?
Respecting this rural character.
Yeah.
So it's really to look at a planning effort in the Trilby-Lacoochee area, really to see if part of that's Northeast Rural Protection Area, part of it's not.
Yeah.
It's really a planning effort to look at that and say, with these economic development projects coming in there, today there's not really the residential to support those jobs in that area if we want them to live near in that area. So there's we need a focused planning effort right in that area as to how do we want that area planned going forward based on the work we see that's happening in that area.
Terry?
Before we created the Villages of Pasadena Hills plan, there was a consultant hired to create a concept plan for that area.
Mm-hmm. Right.
That went to the board, and the board looked at that concept plan and said, yes, this looks good, go further with it. So I think the goal is to have staff bring back a scope of work for a consultant to do a similar work effort in the Lacoochee area. Does that sound right?
That's my understanding. I heard your request for a scope of work to bring back to the BCC.
Okay.
Okay. Do your thing. I just wanted to make sure I was on the same page. I was
Yeah,
a little,
but I mean, we're expecting, you know, the jobs and all, we gotta have a place people
yeah.
live.
Yeah.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
how's that project that was out there trying to get the rail line going? They're trying to use that spur that was there. Did that ever come to fruition?
It's moving forward. That's WREC's project, I believe you're talking about.
Yep,
It's
okay.
they're talking about doing a spur,
That,
and there's not a user there right now, but they're really, we got people looking in that area.
okay, because I think that would be a great catalyst to open that thing up for the future.
I mean, the more we add, the more things about services that we gotta look at. I mean, you gotta look at sewer and water and things of that nature in that area, which is not, I mean, it's there to a point, but it's not very large. It can't handle a lot.
I'll say West Pasco Habitat and Pinellas Habitat, starting with Pinellas Habitat, they had some great projects going on. They took some old trailer home projects and kind of went over, kind of like we're doing a Leisure Lane with them. Maybe there's some big projects that Habitat could look at there to come forward. If they found a market, they could
Right.
go and, tell you, Mike Sutton is a good organizer. He might be able to work with East Pasco Habitat to kind of look
Which-
at some stuff.
So you know, though, in the future, with the growth that's happening to our north, in the northern county, which is Hernando,
Yeah.
it's gonna be pushing on our border, at the northern border of Pasco County.
Mhm.
And we need to be able to take some of that energy and some of that interest and put it to work in our county and not let it all go to another county. So that brings income and people and housing for the folks here in Pasco County.
Yeah, I think you're right on the money. Many years ago, when we first looked at doing our comp plan all over again, back in
Right.
2006 or so, and one of the things I was talking about is, unlike Hillsborough, which protected its northern boundary compared to ours, we get all the growth, they get
Right.
difficult roadways to get through and try to connect. I had suggested years ago that we take maybe like a half a mile all the way from the top of our border, all the way down, and look for more density all the way through.
Yeah.
And looking at the roadways that they're building up in Hernando, maybe something to come back and take a look at. Like we talked about expanding County Line Road, which I actually should have mentioned in my item. I actually got a meeting coming up with Hernando County to kind of look at working with them to do funding on that road, maybe getting some federal assistance with other programs. But I think you're right, if we look at that up and down, that may help with Lakuchi.
Yeah.
Just making those connections too.
Yeah, I think it just makes sense that we need to take advantage of that, not give it away to another county.
Yeah.
If we want manufacturing to come in there, need to provide the housing for them too.
Yeah.
So, also, I'll give you an example from years ago. Spring Hill got started.
Mhm.
Well, Pasco County at that time kind of didn't want growth to happen there on that line. So most of your bigger infrastructure and your manufacturing, hospitals and other things ended up in Hernando County
Mhm.
and not in Pasco.
Yeah,
Now, that's a loss to Pasco County,
I agree.
and we don't need to see that happen in the Lakuchi area. We need to develop that in the right way, so, and keep the rural nature of that area
Yeah.
intact. So,
Months ago, right in our districts where they kind of meet up in that area, there was someone who wanted to come in and build something down south. They wanted to get water or sewer, I think the
Right.
sewer from up there, and then they said, no, we got our capacity, you guys want to do something, bring up your own.
right.
So, you're right, we got to.
So that's what's happened. I mean, that's history that
Yeah.
we've had, and we don't want that to happen again in the Lakuchi area.
I agree.
Okay? All right? Dan,
Sounds good.
anything to add?
Nope.
Anything?
No, I can't do a better job than what David did explain that.
All right, that's all I have. Meeting adjourned.
All right.
Thank you.
So what's the idea?